Welcome viewers. We have had very good discussions and also saw two films of the two hospitals. We had some questions from Bangalore, but we have not had any other questions. So I would request the regional centers, wherever our students are viewing the program, at least they should tell us that the students are there, or they can send the questions if they don't want to ask or they are not getting the lines through the facts. And now in this last session, we'll have presentations from Dr. Sumati, who is going to make the presentation on the management of the waste from immunization, which is a very, very crucial area. And then Dr. Ruchika Kuba, who is the second architect, as important as she gave the compliments to me about this program, but in fact she has been working very hard on this program, and whatever you see now, all the teleconferences and various other interventions or the film that we wanted to show you, anyway we'll show you again. It is her handiwork, and she has done, taken great pains for this. She is going to discuss on how to train the waste handlers, which is a very important category, and waste handlers training is what she is going to discuss. And finally, we request her to also discuss about the projects, the projects that you are supposed to do, the project work. So with this, I'll request Dr. Sumati to make her presentation in about 15 minutes time.
Thank you. Welcome back, viewers. And we will now go on to another important topic, the management of waste from immunization. We all know that vaccines have played a very important role in all our lives. They have been very important in preventing diseases, and we have all also heard of the story of the smallpox eradication, which was possible only because there was an effective vaccine available for this dreaded disease. And vaccines have reduced mortality, especially in infants and children, and many childhood disorders have been conquered, or at least they have been brought under control only because of vaccines. And the vaccine-preventable diseases, which include diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, polio, mumps, and rubella, have all been possible only because of effective vaccines being available. In the 1970s, WHO had launched the expanded program of immunization, and more recently now, there is a global alliance for vaccines and immunizations, which is a coalition of governments and private sectors for the strengthening of immunization programs all across the world. Now, immunization program, the status is that over the past 25 years, immunization has increased by leaps and bounds. From less than 5%, it has now increased to about 50% coverage by immunization in Southeast Asia alone. And WHO has recommended immunization as a schedule for several diseases, including for tuberculosis you have the BCG, OPV for polio, DPT for the three classic diseases, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, and also for hepatitis B and Haemophilus influenzae type B vaccine and measles vaccine. In India, in 1978, the expanded program of immunization was established, and later in 85-86, the universal program of immunization came in vogue. So why are we talking about this? That's because immunization has because of the programs of immunization, we are faced now with a lot of waste that is being generated as a result of these programs. So the magnitude of the problem you can see with all these statistics. About 95% of injections are still being given for curative care, while about 3% injections are for immunization and 2% are for other uses like blood and blood products. According to the WHO studies, it says that about 50% of the world's 16 billion injections being given every year are said to be unsafe. In India, 4.5 billion injections per year are given, of which it says that about 210 to 250 million are in the form of auto-disable syringes every year. An average Indian, they say, has at least about 5.8% injections per year, that is 5.8 injections per year, of course statistically speaking, of which they say more than 60% are unsafe. So this is quite alarming. And 550,000 immunization sites are there in India, both rural and urban parts, where curative injections are being given and vaccines are being given, which makes it that about 2,150 tons of plastic and 613 tons of needles are generated and 20 tons of glass waste. So you can imagine the magnanimity of, how big a problem this is. The risks of immunization waste can be classified as occupational risks and risks to public and environment. Sharps injury with dangers of transmission of the three organisms, that is the HIV, hepatitis B and C viruses commonly. And there is risk to public also because of reuse of syringes and needles, or the rag pickers who are rummaging through the waste. All this leads to risk because of the immunization waste. And there is also risk via the environment, where again indirectly man is affected. It's an indirect risk because as a result of air pollution or groundwater pollution. The Central Pollution Control Board has laid down guidelines and regulations for waste disposal. According to this, for immunization, the auto-disabled syringes are supposed to be used. This again has really opened up a hornet's nest, which I think we will be discussing later with Professor Agarwal. And the use of safety boxes. That is, safety boxes are nothing but the puncture-proof containers in which the needles and other sharps are supposed to be discarded. And then the technique of what is called as bundling. Bundling refers to the provision of all the facilities for an effective immunization program. That is, good quality vaccines, then you have to have auto-disabled syringes and safety boxes for proper disposal of the waste. So, what constitutes a safe injection? A safe injection is one that does not harm the recipient, and it does not expose the provider to any avoidable risks, and it does not result in any waste that is dangerous for the public. So injection safety measures would then include a lot of activities like involving various stakeholders, be it the government, the non-government organizations or private. And one has to gather political support, arrange for adequate funding, appropriate equipment and supplies, provide trained staff, and manage waste safely. So it's not as simple as just giving the injection and then, calling it a day. The treatment technologies available are plenty. At the point of generation, one has to have the needle cutters or the hub cutters, or it can be an electrically operated needle destroyer, or by chemical disinfection if these are not available. And the treatment technologies would involve the autoclave, a retort, a microwave, and later going on to the shredder, or a portable steam treatment unit. This is what a tabletop microwave looks like. And in smaller setups, a tabletop microwave, which comes in different sizes, in smaller centers, a tabletop one would do the job. And here is a picture of a shredder, which is usually for the plastics. And the final disposal of the syringes and needles would be the cement encasing, or by encapsulation, or using a deep burial pit. The disadvantage with all these three methods is that it requires land and there is no volume reduction. So we have to devise ways and means by which we can tackle these problems. But there have been success stories. There are 3 instances of success stories. I think some of your units also are giving these examples, which you can read up. The Himalayan Institute Hospital Trust, who have in Dehradun, Uttaranchal, who have managed very well with the immunization programs, and the Program for Appropriate Technology in Health, called the PATH, which along with the Andhra Pradesh government have again dealt with the help of the Balkan needle cutters, etc. And abroad there has been the famous measles elimination campaign, which was in Philippines, where again they have shown that An effective healthcare waste management program can do wonders in eliminating waste of this kind, that is immunization waste. In fact, in the Himalayan Institute Hospital, it's not a very big hospital, but the kind of effort that has gone in managing the waste is really commendable, because they have used the non-burn techniques, that is without using the incinerator. They have managed to get rid of, to dispose of the syringes, the auto-disabled syringes which were used for immunization, as well as the cotton swabs and other kind of wastes which have been used in the process of in course of the immunization program. So one must learn from these experiences and manage the immunization waste safely. So it is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sumati. The immunization waste has been creating a lot of problem, and if you would recall, the UNICEF and the various governments have introduced recently the auto-disable syringes for the vaccination all over the world, more so in the developing world. And every year more than 1 billion AD syringes are going to be used or have already started being used. We went to Nepal and we went to certain other Southeast Asian countries, and we saw that under the UNICEF program, under the immunization program, universal immunization program, large number of AD syringes are being used. So they are good, because the auto-disabled syringe becomes disabled immediately after single use. But the danger that it is posing is of volume, great volume of the auto-disabled syringes. Yes?
Yeah, there's a call.
RC1, please come on. RC1, Delhi 1.
हाँ, मेरा नमस्कार।
नमस्कार
जी, मैं इग्नू के गांधी दर्शन सेंटर से बोल रहा हूँ।
जी,
मेरा नाम सुमन सिन्हा है।
जी,
मेरी आवाज आप सुन रहे हैं?
जी 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 जी।
वो मेरा ये प्रश्न था
जी,
कि ये जो ऑटोक्लेव का जो आप टेम्परेचर है,
जी,
वो
ऑटोक्लेव या इंसिनरेटर
किताबों में और जो आप बता रहे हैं,
जी,
उसमें कुछ हमें परेशानी आ रही है।
ऑटोक्लेव या इंसिनरेटर?
ऑटोक्लेव का जो आप टेम्परेचर बता रहे हैं
जी,
उसमें उसमें जो डीपीसीसी या फिर आप जो कह रहे हैं कि वो टेम्परेचर 134 डिग्री सेल्सियस।
अच्छा, हाँ,
द प्रेशर शुड बी 32
यस पाउंड्स टू द स्क्वायर इंच।
and that for 45 minutes.
No, I think okay. So what is your question, please tell me?
नहीं, पर that autoclaving even for the operation purpose, we
yes,
go for only 3 minutes.
हाँ, ठीक कह रहे हैं।
45 मिनट्स एक्सीड क्यों कर रहे हैं? ये 41 मिनट्स तक क्यों हम तेल जला रहे हैं?
नहीं, ठीक कह रहे हैं। अच्छा, हम बता देते, डॉक्टर सिन्हा ने बड़ा अच्छा पॉइंट बताया है। अगर आपका 134 डिग्री सेल्सियस टेम्परेचर है और आपका अगर 30 पाउंड्स और 32 पाउंड्स टू द स्क्वायर इंच ऑफ प्रेशर ऑटोक्लेव के अंदर मेंटेन्ड है, तो आप होल्डिंग टाइम जो आप कह रहे हैं वो 3 से 5 मिनट, 5 मिनट का होल्डिंग टाइम काफी होता है, तो वो आप करेक्शन कर लें। 45 मिनट्स का उसमें जरूरत नहीं है। इतने हाई टेम्परेचर और प्रेशर पे ऑटोक्लेविंग इज डन, स्टरलाइजेशन इज अचीव्ड विद इन 3 to 5 मिनट्स टाइम। सो आपका बिल्कुल ये पॉइंट जो है बिल्कुल ठीक है, इससे हम सहमत हैं आपसे। थैंक यू सिन्हा साहब, वो करेक्शन कर लीजिए।
मैं इसको थोड़ा सा और से हेलो
जी, हाँ, बोलिए।
मैं बताना चाहता हूँ, ये जो डीपीसीसी के गाइडलाइंस हैं
जी,
उसमें उन्होंने ऐसा लिख रखा है, द टेम्परेचर ऑफ लेस देन 135 डिग्री सेल्सियस एंड प्रेशर ऑफ 31 pound per square inch for an autoclave having residual time of 45 minutes. ये जो टेम्परेचर ऑफ लेस देन 135 डिग्री, ये जो चीजें हैं उस पर वो डीपीसीसी वाले हॉस्पिटल में आकर के मेमो देते हैं। तो मैं स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूं कि सरकार या फिर साइंटिफिकली क्या करेक्ट है हमारे लिए।
आप वैसे मैं बता दूं कि ये लेस देन 131 तो गलत लिखा हुआ है, लेस देन तो नहीं। हाँ, इट शुड बी बिटवीन 120 और 130 के बीच में टेम्परेचर का थोड़ा उसमें गाइडलाइन चेंज करनी पड़ेगी। 120-130 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे और ये जो 30 के करीब पाउंड्स स्क्वायर इंच ऑफ प्रेशर पे होल्डिंग टाइम जो होता है वो 3 से 5 मिनट का काफी होता है। 5 मिनट का 120 अगर रखेंगे तो 20 मिनट का होल्डिंग टाइम करना पड़ेगा। जितना टेम्परेचर कम होगा उतना आपको होल्डिंग टाइम बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, ये ध्यान रखिएगा। और वो रेंज देनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि 134 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे ऑटोक्लेव को ऑपरेट करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है। 134 डिग्री और 30 पाउंड्स, 34 पाउंड्स और या 32 पाउंड्स बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है अचीव करना। इसलिए 120 टेम्परेचर 120-22 रखेंगे और 25 पाउंड्स स्क्वायर इंच ऑफ प्रेशर रखेंगे तो 45 मिनट्स का टाइम, हाफ एन आवर का टाइम देना पड़ेगा। कुछ कहना चाहेंगे बगोटिया साहब? जी
साहब, आप एक तो स्पॉट टेस्टिंग कराइए, आप जो ऑटोक्लेविंग कर रहे हैं, और दूसरा केमिकल जो वैलिडेशन होती है, यदि स्पॉट टेस्टिंग आपकी वैलिड है विद इन 5 मिनट्स, then you can convince everybody that my waste is almost treated.
The biological indicators have to be used. In fact, we are using it in our department.
Yes.
And they say that 121 for 15 pounds pressure for about 15 to 20 minutes is absolutely adequate. Right. But I think it's because it's the waste that's being handled. They're being a little more cautious in saying 45 minutes, which is a little. I mean, it's not all that feasible.
I think that can be, those guidelines may be reviewed in due course of time.
Yeah, they would have to be.
Okay, Doctor, I think I should go on to Dr. Ruchika Kuba immediately because she has to give us her presentation on the how to train the waste handlers, which is a serious problem and very important issue, and then secondly about the projects that you are supposed to write for the examination from completing this course point of view. So, Dr. Ruchika Kuba.
Thank you, sir. But I think my presentation can always be modified, expanded or shortened as the time permits. Okay. And we will not like my presentation to come in the way of the questions. Okay. So please ask questions as and when you feel like. The presentation will remain the same, only the discussion will vary. And I am very happy with the question that was asked by Dr. Sinha just now, because it shows that the students are not only reading this thing, but they are also analyzing what is being written. So I think, and applying it. So I think that is a very, very important, and we have achieved, I think, even if one student in the whole batch has been able to do it, I think we have achieved the objective of implementing the program. I am very happy and congratulations to you. I would now begin my topic, and that is the training program for healthcare waste handlers. Now, all of you are being trained in this program of Certificate in Healthcare Waste Management, not only to become aware about the importance of the healthcare waste, but also how to segregate and how to manage it. But at the same time, as we have been discussing since the morning, I think one very important task that we all have after we are empowered with this knowledge and skill is that we have to pass it on and make the people who are actually the grassroots workers to not only become aware about it, but also to be able to effectively manage waste. And the most important of these are the healthcare waste handlers. So I think your task of just taking up the program, your task doesn't end here, that you just take up the program, you go for your 6-day spell, which I feel is very, very important, because if you do not go for that 6-day spell, you are not aware of actually what is being practically done, and you lose the opportunity of discussing with your counselors, with your guides who are so much experienced in this particular field. So you must seriously take your 6-day spell, and after that, I think after the program you have got the certificate, it is the onus on you, it is your duty, I think, to be able to train the waste handlers who may be there in your setting. I think every one of you at least must hold one training program after you have completed the program, or even if you have not completed the program, even in the duration of your 6 months posting, you should be able to, I think, undertake one training program. Then only I think you are benefiting the society and fulfilling your complete duty towards the program. So coming down as to how to organize such a training program. Now, what should be the aim of the program? The aim of the program is very simple, and that is that after the training program, all the healthcare waste handlers should be able to manage the healthcare waste effectively. They should be empowered with the knowledge as well as the skill to manage healthcare waste effectively. Now, as you know, the target group has to be kept in mind for any training program, and according to the target group you have to modify the training program. Now, a target group for one person, I mean for one of you may be different, for another of you may be different, depending upon that in which region of the country you are dealing it, whether it is a government sector that you are dealing with, or whether it is in the private sector that you are trying to take the waste handlers. Now, most characteristics, some of them may be similar. For example, most of them may belong to the low socio-economic group. Then they may be with or without motivation. Some people may not be interested actually in trying to manage the waste. They may feel कि ठीक है जैसा हो रहा है, how does it matter to us? It doesn't affect us directly, so why the hell should we manage the waste? Whereas the other group may be highly motivated, though they may not be having the knowledge. So your type of training program will depend upon the methodology that you will use for the training, will depend upon whether your group is in general motivated or not motivated. Because if it is not motivated, then one of your main weapon will also be to motivate the group, because that is also then part of the training program. And third is that whether they are with or without the knowledge of English, so it will depend upon what medium of instruction you will be using during this training program. Again, the age of the person could be that he is just a fresher or a man about to retire. It is not just the age which matters, it is also the experience which will matter, because the age will roughly tell us whether the person has been in the health system for a long time or he has just joined. So if he has just joined in the hospital or in the nursing home, then you need to familiarize him with a lot of terminologies, with a lot of basic concepts. Whereas if it is a person who is about to retire, he already knows from the type of waste which is generated in the various areas, and probably also what harm this waste could cause. It is only the type of management that has to be taught to him. Similarly, the educational status is also very important, because the type of methodology that you will use will depend upon whether they are taught or they are illiterate people, because for an illiterate person you will need to use more audio-visual aids, you will need to use more maybe some role play kind of an activity, whereas if it is a middle school pass, then maybe some lectures or some kind of a tutorials may also be possible. Now, the methods of training I am listing here for your convenience. Of course, this is given very well in your module, that is the block 4 of course 2. But then it is important for us to understand here that it is you who has to decide that what method has to be used for training depending upon the characteristic of your target group. Now, lecturing is one method in which it should not be used just alone, because nobody likes to be lectured about. May it be a very small child, may it be an elderly. So neither you nor me likes to be just lectured. We need to show certain audiovisual aids, we need to have certain demonstrations, and we need to have certain discussions in which there has to be a two-way communication. So lecturing should be kept to a minimal, and if kept at all, should have a lot of AV aids or supports for to be with lectures. Now, tutorials is a method in which we have one teacher, and we have, you can have the waste handlers as the learner group. So you can discuss with them, you can pose a topic and then discuss with them that, how are you actually managing waste? How do you think should actually waste be managed? What are the different categories of waste? So it is a kind of a discussion, it is a kind of a, discussion in which you can engage them in the tutorials. Now, again, we have discussion. In discussion, we normally have, in this method, we have people in which there is no tutor. In a tutorial, you have a tutor, whereas in a discussion method, you do not have a tutor. You have people considering all of them to be of the equal status, and they will just discuss and give their viewpoints. Then, of course, we have demonstration. Demonstration should be a part of every training module, training program that is being planned by you, because demonstration needs that you need to show them the various types of dustbins that are used. You need to also show them the types of autoclaves, the type of thing. I think with Dr. Bhagotia's presentation, you must have got enlightened today. That is also a type of a demonstration only, that what are the various autoclaves which are being used, what are the various incinerators which are being used in the various countries. Then, of course, work-based experiential is very important also, that where you are working with your experience, you are able to learn how to manage the waste. Now, taking one by one, just the advantages and disadvantages, as I have already told you about lecturing, that it must be integrated with audiovisual aids, otherwise it is not of much use. And we normally use lecturing where factual information or statistics has to be told that this is the quantum of waste that is generated, this is the type of waste that is generated in one area of the hospital, this is the type of waste that is generated in another area, and such a kind of a thing. Now for tutorials, we normally have small group teaching. If you have a large group to which the training has to be imparted, then they should be broken up into small groups to which the tutorials can be delivered. And then it also provides a platform for individualized teaching. Since you have few people in the tutorial, then each one gets a chance to participate. A person who may not normally be an extrovert, may not normally like to indulge in a discussion, during tutorials can be encouraged to give his viewpoints and participate in the teaching learning session. Tutorials is also a method which has to be used in topics where misconceptions exist, because it is only through a two-way communication and discussion that the misconceptions can be removed and we are able to give a clear message. It is also a method which is used to develop analytical skills, because you are going to argue out your point, you are going to give the pluses and minuses of each kind of a method which may be used, so it is another method. Now discussion is a method which is best suited for the last day of the training capsule. After you have trained the people, then you enter into a discussion, because they will be able to now discuss with you as per what they have been seeing, what they have been following, and what they have been taught. So in this discussion they are able to bring out, and you are able to understand whether they have been actually understood the training, the aim of your training has been achieved or not. Now it is also useful for decision making and problem solving abilities, so that the learner group is now able to decide that yes, this is what needs to be done, this is the step that we need to follow, this is the place where we were actually lacking and we were doing wrong and we need to improve. It is also a place where a method where doubts are cleared and there is a confidence building. Yes, now I am empowered and I am able to train others. Now demonstration is very useful for imparting functional knowledge. Without demonstration it is difficult to visualize. For example, the colors of the dustbin, the type of dustbins which can be used, it gives you, demonstration gives a very long lasting impact on the mind, and you are able to remember how a thing has to be done. Now various equipments and processes can be shown by demonstration, that this is the way autoclave works, this is the way incinerator works. If you actually take these healthcare waste handlers to the equipment and show them the process, I think all of you must have experienced this during your 6 days training, that while you were reading the practical manuals, you are not able to imbibe as much of information as you are able to when you go in for the hands-on training and for your round in the hospital where you are demonstrated the various equipments and processes. Now in the demonstration also the relevance and the practicability of a particular procedure is proved. Yeah, RC2 please come in. Yes, RC2.
Yeah.
Yes, please speak up, we can hear you. Please speak up.
Hello.
Yes, please speak.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Dr. Shailesh is speaking from RC2.
Yes, Dr. Saraja.
Yeah, my query is regarding the color of the bag.
Yes.
And in the book you have shown different color of bag like white, blue, black, red, green. And in the hospital we are using only 3 colors.
Yes.
Yellow, black and red.
Yes.
I think 3
So,
are
as per the guideline of the DPCC,
Yeah.
can you guide me what is the what bag we should use in the hospital?
Okay.
See
I think Dr. Samati you would like to.
the basic
And point number 2.
the basic necessity.
Point number 2. Yes, point number 2.
Is there any different color code for the biohazard logo?
No.
Okay, biohazard logo.
The biohazard logo is
Can be on all colors, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the biohazard logo can be of any color, but the color-coded bags, coming to that, the basic thing is the infective and non-infective waste should not get mixed up. So the black for the general waste and yellow for infective waste is a definite necessity. Apart from that, the blue color, because of the sharps and all that, maybe that again would be a necessity. So apart from these three, it's a matter of convenience, because in our country where the educational levels among the healthcare workers, especially at the Karamchari level, may not be much. So to educate them with a whole lot of colors like red, white and green and red and all that would be a little difficult. So at least in our hospital we've done away with some of these colors. The green and white is again nothing but the general waste only, but the green waste is for the the food items and kitchen waste and garbage, and the
Black also can be combined.
so
into
in fact we are using the black one for both, which serves the
General
purpose of the green and the white.
Yeah.
So this is just a matter of convenience. As far as the red bags are concerned, some hospitals have done away with the red bags because if they are incinerated, then it releases, it's made of cadmium, so there are toxic gases that could be released. So we have done away with the red bags, but in case some institution is still using the red bags, they have to make sure that it does not go into the incinerator, and it can only be if you are autoclaving or say microwaving your waste, then the red bags can be used. So apart from the necessities are maybe only the black, yellow and blue bags. Anything other than that, if possible, you can use it to segregate it further. But you have to see the convenience of your particular institution and the literacy levels of your healthcare workers.
Would you like to say briefly any comment here? Bhagotia?
Yeah, color should always be on the national or the state level, so that everybody is aware which color is used for particular waste. For example, yellow we are using for incineration purpose, red we are using for autoclave purpose, and no other technology we are using. So these two colors suffice for segregation of the biomedical waste.
Okay, thank you. Please continue, Ruchika.
Thank you, sir.
Answers.
Yeah, that answers his question.
Okay, thank you so much. So we were taking as the different methods of healthcare waste management for the waste handlers. Now this is demonstration. After that, I just want to say one thing, that audiovisual aids should be used as and where in all the methods whenever required, and the various audiovisual aids that are available is the chalkboard. It is the best method probably where other facilities may not be available, and because you can directly write whatever you want to discuss. Then of course the overhead projectors or the OHPs and transparencies have been used since a long time, and you are all aware about it. Now we have slides with slide projectors that I think has now slowly becoming obsolete with the computer coming in and the LCD coming in, but still at some places the slides and slide projectors are used. And then of course we have the videotapes, the films and the video discs. So they also have the video tapes and the video discs have a very great impact, because as you saw the film also in the second session today, that it is a kind of a demonstration. So you can bring the waste which is being handled in different places. Their films can be shown, and so a broader perspective of the whole thing is available. Then of course we have the computer with or without the LCD projectors. And we have the flip charts which can be used in maybe places where such other modern facilities are not available, and posters which need to be put so that the people such as the healthcare waste handlers need to refer and remember again and again. Like for example, just now only we were discussing that the type of bags, the color of the bags. Now at one time training that we give them for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, they may not remember, but if we put them in the form of posters, then they can always refer to the posters and we can remember it. So these posters must be put above the on a wall above where the dustbins have been placed, so immediately over there the reference is there and they can just put the waste where it needs to be put. Now, most important thing that has to be kept in mind while doing this is that the effective communication must be achieved, and the methodologies should meet the training objectives. For this, a two-way communication is very, very important. It is very important that that we do not just allow the trainers to sit as mute spectators and just impart them training through the various methods that we feel, because through the two-way communication a lot of doubts are cleared, and we also know that what is the level of the training group that we are having and in which direction we need to steer our training, whether we need to focus on particular issues more rather than on the other issues. Now, we also have to keep in mind that the training material should be comprehensible by the target group. Exactly what we were discussing just now, that if we have 5 or 6 colors, then it may not be comprehensible by such a target group to begin with. We may just begin with 2 or 3 colors, and then later on when the group has been trained, then in another session for an advanced training, maybe we can introduce, slowly the other colors, so that we ultimately have an ideal system put in. Then, of course, the training should increase the knowledge and attempt at motivation and attitude building, because motivation at the first go may not be achievable, but repeated trainings at regular intervals will certainly bring in the motivation and also attitude building. Now, training plan is very important. The duration that we envisage is probably around 3 days would be sufficient, but this is again a guideline. You can decrease or increase the number of days depending upon the motivation level as well as the characteristics of the target group, that is whether they are already in the healthcare system, whether they are freshers, whether they are illiterate, whether they are having some kind of literacy. So all these things will also probably decide the number of days. Syllabus must be outlined before the training is undertaken, otherwise the training objectives can never be achieved. Then, of course, you should have a checklist to be prepared that such activities have been undertaken and the aims are being achieved. Logistic arrangements is very important, that the trainer should have a place to sit, they should have some refreshments, the environment should be cool. Again, the hospital should be, when they have to go in for a hospital round, people should be available. All these things have to be taken care of. And administrative clearances are also very important, because in a case like healthcare waste management, it may be very sensitive issue, especially if you want to take them to round to a different hospital, then maybe you may not get the permission. So it is better that you take up the administrative clearances before this is being undertaken. Then the resource, material and manpower must be seen, that you have the material to be distributed ready. It should be appropriate for the training capsule, and the manpower who would be training are also available. Now, evaluation forms a very, very important part of any training program, because unless you do the evaluation, you are not sure whether you have successfully imparted the training or not. We need to have a pre-training evaluation or a pre-test and a post-test. Ideally speaking, the performer in the pre-test and post-test is kept the same, so that you can assess the knowledge before the training, the knowledge and the attitude, the motivational levels also before the training program, and then you can see it after the training program. So after you, not after my presentation, but maybe after the program and the 6-day spell, you can qualify yourself to be a trained trainer. Yes, Delhi 2, please come in. Please come in, Delhi 2. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Delhi 2. We can hear you, Delhi 2. Please speak.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes.
मैम इस वक्त मैं रीजनल सेंटर दिल्ली 2 से बोल रही हूँ.
बोलिए.
मेरा नाम सुषमा खत्री है. मैम मैं बायोमेडिकल वेस्ट सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स कर रही हूँ इग्नू से.
जी हाँ, बोलिए.
मैम सेंस पेपर में डॉक्टर टी.सी. जोशी हैज टेकन वन लेक्चर on handling this chemical solution which we use for disinfection. In their lecture, ma'am, they have mentioned some special type of gloves and masks while handling these solutions. So, ma'am, I want to know about
what are the special masks and gloves.
Okay, I think she wants to ask.
They were saying कि latex ये gloves जो हैं not useful during while handling this chemical solution. They mentioning polyvinyl gloves like
non-polyvinyl.
Okay, we got your question, I think. Dr. Bhagotia, would you like to comment? The special gloves which are used during the handling of the chemicals.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi must have told you N95 mask. Yeah, that mask filters all the hazardous chemicals and bacteria. Maybe your dormant mask may not filter that. And other standard masks are given in your module number also. IS number this, year this. So maybe you can refer to your module. There is given the standard of the mask, standard of the gloves also.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhagotia. Do you want me to take the project, sir?
Yeah, you can briefly.
Okay, I think briefly I'll just run through the project. Though all of you, I think, have already enrolled in January and you must have completed your spell. So I think you must have already taken up some of the other projects. And let me tell you that the program was launched in January 2006 and you are the third batch who has enrolled in this program, and a few students who have submitted their projects. I think Dr. Sumati will agree with me. She is one of the counselors. That very beautifully done. Some of the projects are really very good, and I mean I would like to congratulate those students if they are maybe somewhere also seeing the teleconferencing, that they have really done a very good job, probably much more than we had expected out of this program. They have devoted their time and energy to it, and I'm very happy. Now, just to give you a brief outline about what the project is, though you must have already, it must have been discussed with your counselors. Now, the project is basically nothing but a preliminary form of research. But the theme of the project that you have to take should be relevant to the program. Now, the project that we have asked you to select is a very small one, and it can be, it should be completed in around 120 hours. And 120 hours means that this is the time that you will take for everything. That is, for planning the project, for collection of the review of literature, for actually doing the project, and for writing the project report. So I think it is important that you devote most of your time for your collection of the materials rather than for collection of the literature, because review of literature is not that very much important. Of course it is important, but don't go too much in depth for collection of literature, because more time should be spent in actually doing the project. That is what is the main purpose of the project. Now, as you are already aware, the weightage of this project is of 4 credits, that is again 120 hours, and it is evaluated separately. You have to clear the project separately. It carries 50 marks. And the pass percentage is 40%. Now, in case you have appeared for your term end examination but not submitted your project, then you will not be able to get the certificate. So kindly take your project seriously. You have the counselors. You take your clearances from whatever hospital are required. You can ask your counselors to help you, and you need to finish your project. As soon as your project is finished and your exams are over, you can get the certificate. You have a time of about 2 years without any extra payment of money for extension of the time of enrollment, that for submitting the project. If you do not submit the project in 2 years, then you will have to re-register in the program. So please take care that the project must be completed and submitted within 2 years. Now, the type of project that can be undertaken, I am not going to deliberate too much on this because we neither have the time nor is it required. You are all aware about it. This is given in the project guide. The 4 types are there, and the selection of topic will depend upon the place of conduction, area of study. These are the topics. You are all aware of about it. Only one thing I would like to tell you important about the evaluation of the project is that the learners should submit the projects to the program in charges, who will distribute the project for evaluation among the counselors. And the project, I have already told you the marks, this thing. And again, I have told you that it is mandatory for you to submit the project. Now, the project will be evaluated, just for your information, against the following parameters. So, kindly take care while you are undertaking the project for these topics. First is the selection of the topic, whether it is relevant to the program or not, how relevant it is. The style of your writing. The style of writing means that it should not be very, it should not seem that you have copied all the review of literature from somewhere. It should be simple style of writing. Then what research methodology has been adopted must be mentioned in it. Some brief review of literature which is relevant to the topic you have taken. The observations as well as the discussions must be there. It's not just your observations, the discussions on the observations and conclusions, and what you feel should be the recommendations from what project you have completed. So I think this is all about the project that I would like to tell you, sir. And
thank you very much. Thank you. I think, Ruchika, you can also wind it up and thank the guests.
So yes, I think we have had a very, very good and interactive session, and I hope that we will always have such interactive sessions in future. Now you can always again still email us. My email address is ruchikakuba@yahoo.com. Since your exams are approaching, any queries you have, maybe administrative, maybe academic, you can always put the questions to me, and I think we can forward the questions to the experts and they can reply back. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Sumati and Dr. Bhagotia for having spared their time and for coming here and giving very, very important and useful information. And I think I would also take this opportunity to thank all the learners, the program in charges, and especially the regional directors who have helped make this teleconferencing a real interactive session. Thank you. And
thank
of
you.
course, last of all, thank you, Dr. Agarwal.
Thank you.
I take him to be the host along with me.
That's
So
right. Yes.
thank you so much.